war with drones. You can fight a war with loans. You can fight a war with gas or cans of paint. But don't you realize that the game's compromised if you think that this is something that it ain't? We got images of murder that don't manage to disturb an international order that is bordering absurd. And no one gets the freedom they were told that they deserve till they realize that freedom's not a noun. It's a verb, it's a verb. Freedom is a verb. Something never finished, never done. It's something you must make, it's something you must take, it's something you must constantly become. Well, this weekend revolution, it's a radical inclusion. It's a holiday of popular revolt. It's the social interaction of inconsequential actions using faces to replace a silent vote. But lower pay and higher rents, another kind of violence. The violence of silence and of greed. It's the violence of feeling your irrelevance, revealing every way in which you never will be freed. It's a verb, an action and an urge, as fertile as the barrel of a gun. And it happens out of need, it's a fire and a seed, and its terrible potential has begun. Your liberty is constantly in jeopardy. It's something you must loyally defend. But isn't it demeaning when your well-intended meanings mean your means will have to justify your ends? So improvise a barricade of furniture cascading as a carnival of helmets in the flood. For the bottles can be filled with either gasoline or lager or detergent that'll wash away your blood. It's a verb, it's a verb. Freedom is a verb. Something never finished, never done. It's something you can fake, and it's something that'll break if it ain't something that you constantly become. It's a verb, an action and an urge, as fertile as a barrel of a gun. And it happens out of need, it's a fire and a seed, and its terrible potential has begun.
Hello, I'm John Coleman from ApocatastasisInstitute for the Humanities and Alternative College and High School here on New Milford, Connecticut, USA. The purpose of this broadcast is to jump into the April 20 and 26 edition of This Month in Ed with myself and David Rodriguez. My calloused fingers are on the upkeep with guitar, and David is mustachioed, I believe, since we last spoke. So how you doing there out in California?
Hey, man, I feel wonderful, man. Great to hear you're playing the guitar and practicing the art form. We were just saying how important art is in previous shows. So that's great to hear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's the temperature out in this month of April in California? Is it as hot as they say? I understand there's some sort of heat wave out there. If it's not California, it's Oregon or whatever, Arizona.
Yeah, I think they said it was like record heat for how early it was in March and probably here in April as well. So who knows what they're doing in the skies, or maybe it's just the earth trying to heal itself. You know, it's a self-healing organism, kind of like your body. When you have a fever, the fever is trying to get rid of the either the bacteria, or I don't know if it's a virus or something inside of the body to get rid of. So there's some deeper wisdom that I don't fully understand yet, but I'm learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I heard someone mention as regards chemtrails, but any sort of underhanded stuff, we'll say, with the weather, that it was like a balloon, like those string balloons that children make animals out of. And that we know this from our own lives and with just things in the natural world. You can squeeze the balloon, you can jack with it for a bit, but that water is going to express itself. If it's, in this idea of a water balloon, it's going to come out, and you can play around with sleeping for a while, but your body will get the sleep it wants one way or another, and other things as well. So I think there's a way, there's an equilibrium. There's an equilibrium that's always achieved. And as we approach education, we can maybe revisit this topic of this mechanistic understanding of things I've been playing around with, but I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. David, what are your websites? We're going to revisit this at the end, but what are your websites that are down below in the description?
You can go to Linktree/David James Rodriguez, and also the Valor Academy is early high school graduation, and I probably will have the homeschool leader coaching program launched when this show goes live. So we're getting into the preparation in the spring for the fall for parents, and I'm here to assist and empower you and your children as they approach the new year, and all the discoveries we're making in education, talking about the news, but providing solutions, because there's a lot of problems out there. But just like John, myself, I'm trying to create solutions for you, not to change the world, but to help you change your world in your house, one family at a time. And you can just go to Linktree/David James Rodriguez with most of my links there.
Excellent. And indeed, those are down below in the description. They say that generals are always fighting the last war, and teachers, as you've just indicated, are always preparing for the next semester, long before normal people are in that headspace. So we're already gearing up for the fall and winter or spring semesters next year, believe it or not. So there we go. All right. And just on my end, before we get to our articles, which are also linked below, there's this beautiful website, David. I'm just taken aback by it every time. And that's, of course, Apocatastasis's website. And you can find, for the audience, you can find all of our former episodes on this page. And whilst the news stories change month by month, the principles David and I are hitting on don't. And so these shows are, in fact, evergreen. So avail yourself of them and hopefully benefit. All right. So our first story here is from Tyler Durden. Wow, what's he doing here? From Zero Hedge. So David, should we hop into this, or do you have some preliminary observations?
No, I think this is good to see. It takes time for parents out there to realize that the political system is slow. So when they do stuff like in California, as this article will point out, that the school is prohibited from telling parents about their child's gender change, including name change. So that is very immoral and criminal, in my opinion. And so finally, some people took it upon themselves and got up to the Supreme Court, and they have reaffirmed the basic reality, as it says here in the article, that parents' rights are superior to the state. And so that's a little bit of positive news, just kind of seeing that there's a mass swelling of parents getting into action, and some go the political route, some pull their kids out of the school system. But to see this mainstream is, I would say, pretty positive, just to kind of show the direction of the zeitgeist.
Excellent. And by the way, just to clarify, whilst this is reproduced on Zero Hedge, this is from Carrie Ingraham from the Epoch Times. So the Zero Hedge article will be down below. But in either case, these actually, the very fact that Zero Hedge or the Epoch Times are as popular as they have become is actually quite encouraging, I believe.
Yeah, Epoch or Epic, I don't know how you say it, but right, yeah, they're doing honest journalism, it seems. And I've actually seen them in some of the smaller grocery stores where I'm at, in a more conservative county in Northern California. So there used to be the local heralds and newspapers, and some of them are still there. But to see the Epoch Times right there on the counter when you check out, I think is some good news as well, because we've been under information warfare for a few decades, a few generations, and now we're having decentralized and independent agencies and editors and founders come out and create their own thing, because you can't lie to the people all the time. It's time to find the truth and share it. I think that's what they're doing.
Are you saying, David, before we hop in here, are you saying that the Epoch Times, or Epic Times as it is, has a print outreach?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. All right. I was not aware of that.
Yeah,
All right.
right.
So we'll read a bit here, and then you just interject, and we'll go back and forth here. So earlier in March, the U.S. Supreme Court had to step in and reaffirm the basic reality that parents, not schools, must be the primary decision makers for their children. In the case Mirabelli versus Bonta ruling, the court determined that the California law, which barred schools from telling parents about their child's claimed gender identity, violated parents' constitutional rights, both their First Amendment free exercise rights and their 14th Amendment rights to make decisions about their children's upbringing.
For most of American history, parents were recognized as the primary authority in their children's lives. Today, that authority is repeatedly under attack, especially in public schools. Across the country, families are being shut out of what their children learn, denied access to critical health and personal information, and blocked from choosing schools that fit their children's needs. This is not a minor issue. It's a major issue. Rather, it is a fundamental threat to family authority and a child's well-being and the future of our society.
In too many districts, controversial lessons are introduced without parental knowledge. Parents who ask to review classroom materials are simply ignored and told the material is unavailable, or directed to file a public records request. Families who speak up at school board meetings are often treated as agitators or troublemakers, or called during the Biden administration domestic terrorists, we recall, not too long ago.
That's right. To a growing extent, schools have begun operating as if parental involvement is optional instead of essential. But parents do not lose their rights when their children enter a classroom. Education exists to serve families, not replace them.
The problem extends beyond curriculum, as teachers and administrators are withholding critical medical or personal information from parents about their minor-aged children. Yet, parents cannot fulfill their responsibility to care for their children if key information is deliberately withheld.
This conflict is not hypothetical. In recent years, a growing number of school districts have adopted policies that allow and even encourage students to socially transition at school using different names or pronouns without notifying their parents. In some cases, school staff are directed to keep this information hidden from dads and moms. Policies like these drive a wedge between parents and their own children.
When I viewed this in preparation, I was wondering, and it may just be stylistic choice, but why the author chose to use socially transition.
I think that's the politically correct way of saying it. I don't know. I guess you could say gender transition, because that would maybe mean a surgery. So there's, maybe there's some type of better word perhaps they could use that would be more accurate, but.
Howsoever, finally, parents are still denied meaningful authority where their children are educated. Millions of families remain assigned to schools based solely on zip code. If a child struggles academically, faces bullying, or needs a different learning environment, parents are often left with few options. This puts children's education and well-being at risk. If I could just interject here, I might say I'm not advocating for it. I'm not detracting from it, but there's a reason for that, and this goes back to the Enlightenment. So this idea of being based on zip codes or geographic location, it was a way. We have to remember that what seems very bureaucratic nowadays was revolutionary. Those of us in alternative education have to remember that the people we often criticize, like Horace Mann or John Dewey, were in our shoes 100 years ago. And as regards the liberal nation state, one of the ways that they threw a spear into the heart of nobility and castes in European society was exactly on this point, that you would have geographic and randomness, that your citizenry, this leveling idea of being the community member, would not be based on your caste of being in the clerical ranks or in bloodline nobility. So this is neither here nor there. It's just my historian's mind is wanting to bring that point up. Neither here nor there. But anyhow,
I'll make a little comment too, because
please.
The social Darwinism of the late 1800s was about reintroducing the class system, and they did it a lot through location. So you can have one city, but then you have kind of the poor area over here, the middle class area over here, and the rich people over here. So there was this superiority that these families felt that they had because science had proved it, and natural selection and all the rest. So this seems to be coming to an end. I hope we're at the beginning stages, but to understand that just because you live somewhere doesn't mean you have to take your child there, but that's what they have been speaking of. So let's get back to the article here. Thankfully, change is taking place across the country. States are expanding school choice programs that allow education funding to follow students rather than remain tied to the system. Private school scholarship programs, education savings accounts, and tax credit scholarships are giving families the freedom to choose the learning path that best meets their children's unique needs.
Parents are desperate to exit public education because it has failed to fulfill its core mission of providing quality learning. That's something we've taken exception to in past recordings, but I digress. This has stopped. The schools have stopped listening to the parents, and in many cases has pushed them out. I'm not sure, based off of their marquees, David, public schools. I'm not sure public, which means commercial schools, have ever, to their credit, they put it on their marquees, have ever really been about providing quality learning. The purpose of public schools is to provide good workers. I don't know if this person is reading into something which may not exist. What's your mind on that?
It's a good point. I think some of the propaganda, some of the journalists haven't gone down the rabbit holes that you and I and maybe our audience members have through John Gatto and Charlotte Isserbit and Anthony Sutton, proving this point of the purpose of the schools were to create workers, consumers, and clerks, soldiers, all these very immoral and anti-educational components. So they might not be aware of John Gatto and some of these other people who have pointed out conclusively, and I think this is through the Reese Committee too in the 50s, that the purpose of these schools was to serve the large corporations, the large foundations, which sounds, diabolical, but once you go down the facts and the research, you find that to be true. So it is alarming, and this is why I'm glad they said they're desperate to exit the public school system. So let's see continually here in this article. Parents, not school bureaucrats, must hold the final authority over their children. Moms and dads raise them, have known them since birth, and will be a part of their lives long after the school year ends. No teacher or administrator, no matter how well-intentioned, should ever replace that role.
For most of our nation's history, that was obvious. Parents had both the right and the responsibility to direct the upbringing and education of their children, and courts repeatedly affirmed that principle. And more importantly than these Freemason courts, in my phraseology, the state constitutions also reaffirmed this. That's certainly the case here in Connecticut, that the parents are the primary providers of education. How is that in California, David?
Very similar as well. I think we're kind of so far at the state of these public corporations in the country that this information has been lost. And God bless our parents. My mother was a public school teacher, and there's good teachers in the system, but it's such a bureaucracy that you just don't know what you don't know. and it's kind of like the telephone game. Now you whisper to one person, and then they whisper it, and then 10 people down the road, nobody knows what the original was. So I think parents don't even know their rights. So I think this is kind of part of the awakening that's happening. Yet today, that authority is under threat. Bureaucratic policies, as witnessed in California, are increasingly working to replace the role of parents in a child's life.
Excluding parents erodes trust, strips schools of accountability, harms children. Families are sidelined while systems, bureaucracies, dictate what children learn, what personal information they keep private, and even which schools they can attend, leaving children without the guidance of those who know and love them best. Schools should operate with transparency, not secrecy. Parents should be treated as partners, not obstacles, and their decision-making authority must be respected.
Children belong to families, not bureaucracies. Institutions should never forget that. Restoring parental authority is not radical. Rather, it is simply a return to a long-standing American principle. Families, not government institutions, are the foundation of society, and parents should be trusted to guide their children's upbringing and education.
Bureaucracy is a great French word which enters English, and it literally means tables. Like we have bureaus in our bedrooms or whatever. Bureaus, bureaucracy, and it's a French word for tables. And what a great image for what these things are. Just people who sit at tables all day. If we fail to protect that principle, we risk raising a generation with less parental guidance, less accountability in schools, and fewer opportunities to succeed. When parents are respected and empowered to lead in their children's lives, families grow stronger, and so does the future of our nation.
It's time to put parents back in their rightful place as the first, most trusted, and most important decision makers in their children's lives. This Supreme Court decision is an important step in the right direction.
Okay. And that's U.S. Supreme Court, and that decision, if you want to look it up, is Mirabelli versus Bonta. So this will be linked down below, as are the other articles. All right, so not too shabby. Some good news there. Some encouraging news altogether.
Yeah. There was a county near me, or a district in Anderson, California, that the school board and the parents were getting riled up and passing specific ordinances for their particular city. So it's good to see that now the federal court, the Supreme Court, has recognized the illegality of this order or this policy for teachers or schools to keep this information hidden. I mean, it's criminal, it's ridiculous, and it's I guess showing the surge in the culture that parents aren't going to put up with this, it seems. But when a parent has a child or two in the system, they fight, and then when that child leaves, then their fight is over. So I think it's smart to begin thinking about the intergenerational component, and a lot of champions are needed, just like yourself and me and other people out there. This is my work on the earth. Part of it, is to get the kids out of the school system and to help parents understand what is this education they seek of. And in that article, they talked about the schools helping kids succeed, but even that is a vague word. And in my school, what I help parents understand is that, yes, success is cool, however you define it, but a better aim is to create a good life. And when you phrase it like that, a good life, now you beg the question is, what is a good life? And that's up to each person to discover for themselves, create, design for themselves, because we're on this journey. But if you think it's grades and money, and that's your only aim, you're going to be very disappointed when you get the good grades and you get the money, but you have nobody around you who loves you, cares for you, trusts you, and people who you can have an authentic conversation with. So just the phraseology of these schools confuse parents because they're out there working, and I respect that. But it's good to look at the words that they use and to ask, what do you mean by that? Like you brought up quality learning, or I've seen it in other phrases called quality education. We're here to help the kid have a quality education. Well, what's that? And how do you define it? And how do you measure it? And these are questions they can't handle. So I invite parents to start asking these questions to your spouse, or maybe unsupportive partners or family members that are, just put them in school, and you're not qualified to homeschool, or, we need them over here for this reason. It's like, well, what is success? What are we after? And if they begin looking at a good life, I think this is a better question. It's going to take time because it's not an ABC question. This is a customized answer for each student and each human. And it's a funner question to find the answer to it, in my view.
Excellent. And just a few thoughts on my end before we shimmy-shammy to the next piece. I want to second that observation of David's, and for myself, make it into a proper critique, that a lot of alternative education does not have a long-term vision beyond their own immediate needs of themselves as parents or their children. And that long-term vision is something that we really, those of us committed to education, even if you're just passing through as a student or a parent, and you have all sorts of other balls in the air, and it's not something you're going to give your vocation over to, all of us, it would behoove us in alternative education, whatever our association, to have this long-term vision and this frankly maturity to things, because as I mentioned before in our talk, David, we're going to be inheriting this entire field for all sorts of reasons in the next few decades. This entire thing, the properties, the teachers, all of this, the needs, also has many outside groups, including political groups and military insurgencies, have found out. We're going to also inherit all the problems of the society and its educational needs. So we need to really start thinking in this way. This thing is going to fall into us, into our lap, and we need to be ready for when that time comes. Whatever our, David's Academy, the Institute here, and 100 and 1,000 other worthy works besides, we have a lot of work coming up. So that discipline right now is going to behoove us very well.
I agree. Yeah, I think the trends show homeschooling doubling by 2032, I think it is. So from like 5 to 10 million is an estimation, because the trend is parents are getting their kids out. And as the article mentioned, school choice. I'm talking with a group in Florida about the ESAs, the education savings accounts, and they get $8,000 in Florida, which is a large amount of money. In California, I've seen some type of voucher or a stipend for homeschoolers, like $1,000 or $1,500, but $8,000, it was pretty big. So the caveat there is, and you take money from the state, there are some requirements. So, be aware of that. But, you do what you can to get them out of the school system and not even have them around this type of sexual material. It's like, this is not education. We said there's hidden purposes of the school system that hopefully through our work and standing on the shoulders of giants ahead of us can help expose that and have a real conversation of why it's compulsory attendance and compulsory curriculum. Okay,
so with our first story seen to, we have the next one on the chopping block. And just a few things before we hop into this, one of which is I neglected to mention the bumper song is Freedom is a Verb. That is the name of the song, if you wish to look it up. And the singer and his band is Daniel Kahn, Khan, Daniel Kahn and the Painted Bird. So that is waiting for you if people want to download that and check out the other music from the band. Also, at the end of this, when David and I depart, just on a lighter note, I'll have a contemporary teacher trying to explain the old Oregon Trail from the 1980s to his students and certain humorous things the students observe, just on a lighter note altogether. Finally, you might have noticed as David was giving his concluding thoughts, on the Zero Hedge article that I was dropping this article into a service called Textize. And that was in the interest of not having advertisements and getting around paywalls. So if you wish to not be advertised, go to Textize or go to printfriendly.com, and you will often be able to subvert the man. And that's what we're all that's what we're all about here. All right, David, take it away here. Would you kick off?
The Texas Education Agency on Monday directed all public schools in the state to revise lesson plans to remove mentions of Cesar Chavez after sexual abuse allegations surfaced against the labor leader.
In written guidance, that's an interesting legal word. Is it a law? Is it a statute? It's guidance. Huh? Okay. It's a policy. It's what are the other BS words they have? A policy. It's a protocol.
That's right.
Written guidance.
Mm-hmm.
The agency in this written guidance also ordered school districts to cancel, quote unquote, or otherwise redirect, which is great bureaucratic speak, for events and activities planned for Cesar Chavez Day on the 31st of March last month. An extension of Governor Greg Abbott's state directive to not observe. There's another bureaucrat, right? A directive to not observe the optional state holiday.
Teachers and labor groups have been reckoning with the late civil rights leader's legacy after New York Times investigation revealed allegations that Chavez had sexually assaulted and abused women and girls. The activist had strong ties to Texas, where he supported striking farm workers and led a rally at the state capitol following a march from Rio Grande City to Austin in 1966.
The current state social studies curriculum requires students to learn about Chavez in multiple grades, including 5th grade and U.S. history. But the TEA, I'm reckoning that's the Texas
Education Agency,
said any teaching of Chavez would also conflict with a portion of the Texas Education Code that says there's another, we should just keep a running tab. So it's codes, directives, whatever the other word was. Anyway, this thing says that teacher cannot be compelled to discuss a widely debated or currently controversial issue of public policy or social affairs. What's the point of school? So you're not allowed to talk about serious ideas.
That's right. No controversy allowed. Only what the president and the governor and the head of the superintendent of the state deems correct. But as you'll see here, they were wrong about the morality of this guy. Quote, "This letter serves as formal notice that the Texas Education Agency, TEA, will not consider failure to teach any student expectation focused on Chavez as out of compliance with statutory requirements," the guidance said. And just that phrase alone, it's like I had to read that sentence a few times earlier. I'm just like,
yes,
what are you saying? Like, just say it. So this is some advice to parents. Like, anytime you see it like this, it's political. They don't want to say we messed up. We're canceling him. But to not consider failure, you're like, who wrote this? Some intern or something, or maybe a very astute political scientist that wants to say something without saying something important. It's, again, what the heck does that mean even?
Well, really, let's just spend a hot second on this. What is this statement actually saying? This letter. So what's the letter? This is the current state schools. Okay, the teaching would also conflict.
So, this is the written guidance you mentioned earlier. This is the written guidance letter.
Okay, so there's another bureaucratic document. So that's the letter that's referred to. Is this other guidance letter?
Yeah.
Okay, so this guidance letter the Chavez guidance letter serves as a formal notice that the Texas Education Agency will not consider failure to teach any students expectation focused on Chavez as out of compliance. Okay, so they don't have to okay, I guess that's what they're saying. They don't have to teach about Chavez even though it's technically in contradiction because the teaching of Chavez is still on the books, but there's been this amendment to it.
Yeah, I think that's what they're saying. Yes. They're basically saying you don't have to teach Chavez anymore, but they worded it inverted, and it's like you got to read it, 3-4 times to understand what the heck they're talking about.
So you don't have to teach Chavez anymore because we already have previous directives and counsels that you do have to teach Chavez.
That
Right,
sounds accurate.
right. So like, okay, I think I get it here. What a piece of work. Wowzers.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, David, here.
The Texas State Board of Education is in the process of rewriting its K-12 social studies curriculum standards to emphasize a focus on Texas and U.S. history. The board is set to vote in June on the new standards, which TEA expects will remove explicit requirements to teach about Chavez.
The Austin School District last week announced that it would celebrate labor leader Dolores Huerta, who founded the United Farm Workers with Chavez and who's been all over the TV this week, on the 31st of March holiday. Huerta told the Times she had been sexually assaulted by Chavez, but kept it a secret for 60 years out of fear for hurting the farm worker movement.
So sad. You got to speak truth. If you're getting abused, say something now. Don't stay silent for 60 years, regardless of the movement. Your dignity is more important. Okay, quote, back to the article. And in Houston, the school district renamed the holiday from Cesar Chavez to Farm Workers Day. It is also facing questions about whether to rename its Cesar E. Chavez High School.
There we go. The rest is just boilerplate about the Texas Tribune. This article, textized or not, is down below in the description. So any further thoughts, David, before I give some?
Thank you. Just right there. Pause right there. It says just that last sentence, to rename the school. So he got accused of sexual abuse.
Bingo. Yes, that's what I was. Yep. Go on. Yep.
With his co-founder. And because they're so ideological and they want to get these ideas out there of government involvement in the farm and the workers, and they want to intervene themselves, they're going to get them out of the curriculum, but let's leave the name of the school there. So this is just politics, and they probably will rename the school, in my opinion, in time, but bureaucracy moves slow and truth moves fast. So I have an interesting personal anecdote on that. The Mexican side of my family, so my grandfather, Mike Rodriguez Sr., was a fruit labor contractor in the Central Valley of California, Fresno, Kingsburg area. And after he passed, I spoke with my grandmother I was interviewing her, and somehow Cesar Chavez came up. I think I had heard about, like, he wasn't as appreciated amongst the Mexicans as history books or media tells us. And she was so shy, because this was probably 10 years ago now. She was so shy to say that my grandfather didn't like Cesar Chavez. And so I pressed a little bit further. And basically, he was a bureaucrat who was trying to interject himself into the business. So my grandfather would go out to these farm owners, and he would have his contracted labor, and they would go pick peaches, plums, apricots, watermelons, all those things. And then Chavez comes in and says, now you have to, put certain things on the work site. And so he's interjecting into my grandfather's business. And so he didn't like him. And I was like, man, I can't wait till the pendulum comes back, because in the free market, which I believe in, where everything is voluntary, and you have the investor, you have the entrepreneur, and you have the staff and customers, all those people are working voluntarily together. So if the farm worker doesn't like the conditions that he's working under, he can quit. He can go work for somebody else. Whereas a politician comes in there and says, hey, you business owner, you now have to provide these things, even though your farm workers didn't say these things. Now we're here to run your business better than you. And I just thought that was a funny personal story, because I had that conversation with my grandmother this years ago. So it turns out Cesar Chavez not only was he a bureaucrat interjecting using coercion, intimidation, he was violating his co-founders. And I think there was something there, or maybe a different article. It says hundreds of girls and women over 60 years, something crazy like that. And because he's a political figure, people don't want to say something. And I think now with the whole Epstein stuff, you got to say it. You got to come out. Maybe you got to have a strategic release. But if you don't identify and say the truth about these predators, they will continue to harm innocent people. And this is where courage comes in. This is where it comes a little bit of a strategy and preparation. But I'm so sad that these people got abused. But, you know, in my view, I was abused by the public school system because they forced me to be there, and they required permission to go to the bathroom, get a drink of water. These are human rights that were violated in my experience. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's not right that they're forcing this on children, and somebody has to say something. And with our foundation of history, I think we have some great foundations and fundamental truth and righteousness and justice to bring to the communities and bring to the market in the media world. So that's just a personal story that the audience might enjoy.
That reminds me, on a lighter note, and then I have a more substantive thing to add to this. Brendan Behan, last month we had St. Patrick's Day. Brendan Behan's an Irish playwright and author from the last century. And in his book, Confessions of an Irish Rebel, Behan, who was very much left-wing and in the labor movement, has an anecdote, and I forget the gentleman's name. He's actually a Roman Catholic saint, the patron saint of abstinence from alcohol. Ironically, the man worked in the Guinness factory. But in any case, there's a very comical section in Behan's Confessions of an Irish Rebel where he contrasts the kind of hagiographical and abstinence memory of this man to, oh yeah, this bastard was working with the bosses all the time. He was always a scab for every strike that they had. He was always scabbing for the boss, and it was just the contrast between the public persona and memory, as we say in the history discipline, the memory of someone or something long after they've passed, and the reality of people who knew them, just like your grandfather's anecdote. And also on this very nerve, there's an excellent short story. You could read it in 20 minutes called Lawley Road, Lawley, Lawley Road, from an Indian author, R.K. Narayan. Lawley Road, and it's a very similar thing where there's a statue, and it's a meditation on actually crowd psychology. There's a statue in India. And one day during independence with Gandhi and all this stuff, David, someone runs in from the library. Oh, I just read this statue. The guy this statue was, he was a horrible man. He did great mischief to us. And the whole saga is them trying to bulldoze and blow up this statue and drag it to some dude's house. And it's a comical story. But then the end of it is, the same guy runs back from the library. No, he was a great humanitarian. He was the greatest person that ever lived. We've been wrong all along. And that's the crowd. And the only thing on a more serious note that caught my attention with this article, and this is something that annoys me way beyond this article, is the word allegation. This has not been proven yet. And I understand the sensitive nature and why people would be quiet about this. And I get that. But we need to be very careful. This is not Europe. And this is not... this is America, and I'm in New England, and there are placards in every town green of men who died to assert the natural right that you're innocent until proven guilty. And with this word allegation, and it's in a lot of ways, and a lot of people are trigger happy because of abuses that have happened. Epstein's the giant one. In different religious communities, they'll just publish allegations. Now there's a whole genre, they call it true crime, and they've run through all the true crime channels on YouTube and on the television. They've run through all the actual crimes that have been adjudicated in court. So now they're just showing body cam footage without any, and it makes a mockery of justice. I don't know this man from Adam, this Chavez. I'm only very, very peripherally aware of him, really. But the larger point about allegations, we need to, I believe, recover the reality that allegations are not proof of anything whatsoever. And, there's a Texas State House. They can have a court trial, even though the man's not there. They can't punish him, but they can explore this. There are these sorts of things. And I just wanted to bring that up. And there are many other angles too. Anything to add there, David?
Yeah, no, that's a very wise point, because we are innocent until proven guilty. And this is part of the philosophy and principles of this whole country, is that government's the problem. So if somebody wants to come after somebody, they can just pay some scab, nobody, and they will make an affidavit and perjure themselves. But if it fits into political alignment with the political people, then they will support that. So there's a phrase that says it's better for 99 guilty people to go free than one innocent person to be convicted. So justice is part of the evolution of consciousness. And even, the point is very valid about accusing somebody, alleging something, and we are all innocent until proven guilty. So that's a great point. I hope there is maybe a post-mortem type law case, or how to go over the evidence to prove. And I don't know how you do that, because he's gone, but the fact that I think this lady probably had a conscience, as all of us do, and she just couldn't go to her grave saying, yay, this guy's a great guy, when he sounds like he raped her, according to her allegations. But it's very important, because if somebody's accused publicly, then that alone is a tactic to knock people off. And it's in the accusation that you lose your business, you maybe lose your wife or husband or something, or you lose support, and then the court trial comes a year, sometimes 18 months, 2 years later, after it was hot news. And maybe 10% of the people find out, oh, this guy was accused of something. Well, turns out that didn't happen. And, some of these things, even like Michael Jackson, imagine this guy, big rock star. And, they said all the stuff about him. But now I think the pendulum's coming back on that, where the boys coming out saying, my father told me to accuse him. He didn't accuse me, but the damage was already done in the media. So it is a very astute point to be aware that you're innocent until proven guilty. And if you're interested in a case, then you got to follow up on it and take control of your mind back, because they use the short attention spans that we all have now with this guy, flamboyant and, hot news trending. And then, I guess whatever happened, that guy got accused. Oh, he was vindicated and he's innocent. What? So he lost his business and all these things. So that's a very awesome perspective that you brought up. I think parents should really, pay heed to that.
There are 5 men I've known in these 30 years in town here. There are 5 teachers I've known that have been accused of impropriety, and their names, when we still had a town paper, were splashed all over the paper. Those 5 men were found innocent, all of them years after. And that didn't stop them from having ruined lives. These are very serious things. And I'm going to speculate here, because the script writers, shall we say, the script writers are getting worse and worse, David. And, they killed Baghdadi the same way they killed bin Laden about 10 different times. And I've seen this sort of thing happen before. So people may remember, I'm speculating here, and I'm remembering that in the 2016 election, there was something called Pizzagate. Making a parallel to Epstein, and something that may be going on right now. During the Pizzagate affair, there was a lot of weird things at this DC pizzeria, so-called. Some of it was weird. Some of it got out of control, and I've seen the system just let people run their mouths. They get crazy after a while. So you just let people kind of ferment in one direction and just let them talk, and they seem insane to people. And then there was, on the opposite end, how you deflect from what I believe was a reality with Pizzagate. which was connected to Clinton and Podesta and, oh, wow, what we would call the Epstein thing right now. Then there was this other thing, much bigger than the eccentricities of Pizzagate, called the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement was a sacrifice bunt. You know in baseball, David, what a sacrifice bunt is?
That's right.
Right? Everyone knows this. The Me Too movement, right? There was hanky-panky, there was wickedness with, and they always have a sacrificial lamb. So in 2018, it was Madoff. Now it was going to be Harvey Weinstein, probably creeps, probably, jerks, but just a sacrifice bunt. And the Me Too movement, which was talking about adult impropriety and the so-called casting couch, the system was willing to sacrifice that in order to protect the deeper wickedness, in my estimation. And I wonder, this is pure speculation at this hour, if something like Cesar Chavez and who knows how many other icons, so-called, will be, or maybe brought to light justly. It remains to be seen. Because of Epstein, I mean, we're in this. I'm speaking for myself. We've been dragged into a giant war in the Middle East, largely to cover up from this. Talking about in the downtime, we talked about attention spans. The state's not even concerned about propaganda because people's attention spans aren't even there any longer.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
all right, so maybe this Chavez stuff and maybe other stuff will come out with other people. Are these not sacrifice bunts? I don't know. I give it to you, David, for the final word on this before we get to the last bit.
Yeah, this is a very deep insight you're providing, the sacrifice bunt analogy there. I think that's true. I think Weinstein and perhaps Madoff were not the head, and even Epstein. I think Epstein was a puppet as well. And it's like, hey, sometimes you gotta, take our own guy down to protect the whole empire. And I did see some video, I don't know, or a picture of allegedly Epstein. He might be alive on the earth. And, some of these things, I think in the Epstein files, the security guards had come out and their statement wasn't made public until these files, but somebody had taken the hard drive of the video. So a lot of fishy stuff. And like you said, the war is taken the mainstream now. So now where's Epstein? We don't know. However, I think Epstein's death was in 2019. And there were still the independent journalists who were talking about, hey, Epstein didn't kill himself. So there's still some people with some influence who are hanging on to that. And they're realizing what you and I are aware of now is that it's a magic trick. Hey, look over here, Epstein stuff, because Epstein implicates so many other people. And I mean, just one of the side notes, and we'll get to the final article here, but how they're redacting the perpetrators. And I can understand redacting the victims, but to redact the perpetrators.
Oh boy.
Oh man, that's a clear indicator that it's a scam, because, well, we're not going to get justice from a criminal enterprise, in my view. Sometimes there are some people that find justice, and I would say, just like there's good teachers in the system, there's probably good judges in the system, and they got to sleep at night. Our rights come from ourselves or from the creator or nature. They don't come from these public corporations known as the United States, which is a 10-mile area in DC. Yep, that's right. And even like California, I was traveling, this was last year, I think, and California was its own country before it got annexed to the United States. So there literally was a president of, I think it was called the Republic of California, and then it became the state of California, and then there's California State University. So it's just all these different types of jams on the name. I want to say it was like in the 1800s or something, but just be aware that you are the supreme owner of your own life, and that is the highest authority. And I think this is an important point to protect you from the mind control, because they're going to try to get you to act like a peasant, get you to act like a serf, especially when it comes to your children. Just hand over your children at age 6. And I don't know if it was New York or some other state I saw. I think that they're now offering pre-K education to age 4-year-olds. So just understand there is an agenda, and it's a totalitarian, technocratic, biometric, panopticon society that they are committed to. Palantir, all these other agencies and organizations, they want your child's mind, and they want them to submit probably their thumbprints, their iris of their eyes, their genetic material. And this is sacred, holy material, in my view, precious material, if you don't like those phrases. So just understand, mom and dad, this is where it's going, and you probably got to prepare for your children and grandchildren as we're trying to plant seeds out here that will germinate so that future generations can benefit from the work that we're doing, and the benefit of John Gatto, Charlotte Isbert, some of these other people, Ivan Illich, some of these people that have seen where this is going. And now it's time to rise up and to take control of your family back, your neighborhood, and not be afraid of these types of fear mongers, warmongers. They're going to do what they're going to do. And I don't agree with it, but what am I going to do? What are you going to do? And that's where we have a lot of empowerment and a lot of strength, knowing that you're not alone. And there's 5 million homeschoolers estimated. So there's a great rise of empowering voluntary education and finding out really what is a good life. What is an education? These are better questions than grades and scores on these arbitrary tests.
Excellent. And much to say there, but we'll save some of those follow-ups for another day. No doubt the Epstein story and these larger topics, the tech takeover and all this jazz, will be with us like a devil for some time. All right. So the last story we have here, and try as I might, I cannot make it bigger without this top bar taking over, and I won't take up David's time textizing this, so we'll just squint and leave it there. Passaic Community College president dies, remembered for integrity. So I wanted to end our chat with this story, and I want to ask David, as I'm reading a bit here, maybe to think of a teacher that influenced him, or a mentor, or whatnot. We want to remember that in education, whether it's a homeschool, unschool, public school, private school, that we're part of this chain, CHAIN, chain of transmission. No man is an island, as the English poet John Donne says. No man is an island, and whatever the modality, if it's doing its job on a good day, if we woke up on the right side of the bed, education is about transmitting culture to our children, the best of culture. So let's think about people who have influenced us. I asked the audience to do that, and I'll think as well as I read a bit. So Stephen Rose, the president of Passaic Community College for decades, who oversaw tremendous growth at the academic institution, has died. Our hearts are heavy. Quote, this is a devastating day for Patterson and Passaic County Community College. Dr. Stephen Rose, a visionary leader and cherished friend, has left this life, says the mayor, Andre Syejh. I will not even attempt to pronounce that beautiful name. He hired me 26 years ago as an adjunct professor, and he was the best boss anyone could ask for. Please pray for him and his family. May our college president rest in eternal peace. Rose served as president for the PCCC since '96, and in his nearly 30 years as president, the college doubled in size, added new campuses in Wanaque, Wayne, and Passaic, and expanded the main campus in Patterson. I'm having flashbacks to the Metro North and to the train system around here that goes through all this. All right, I don't know this man from Adam, and he'll be forgotten as soon as any of us will be, but we want to remember our teachers here, and I'll link this story along with the rest down below. But we want to remember also a lot of the talents of people, and as we inherit in the coming decades, those of us who've been on the outside, we have you think it's bad being on the outside of the education world or being on the alternative. Wait till we are on the inside. Wait till we're running the ship. This is a formidable challenge, as many religions and many rebel groups have found out in history, to be on the in the leadership, in the guidance of a people is a tougher road to hoe often than being off in the back of Beyonds. So anyway, let's value our teachers. I think of my first grade teacher, who's buried for many years now up the road in Roxbury, where she lived for many years. And again, these quiet souls, not flashy souls, not bombastic souls like David and I and whatever. Just they show up, they're there to do things, and we can't all be rebels, and that's okay too. And simply to teach beautiful things to people. That's enough. And that daily duty, to use the old language, the daily duty is something we want to honor our teachers with. So that her name was Mrs. Smith, which is, I guess, a good name for a teacher, a good, kind of stand-in for many, many thousands of teachers and mentors and significant people to the youth. So I just wanted to mention that, and I'd ask David for any memories or significant people he has come to mind.
Oh, that's so awesome, John. It's great, man, to honor the good teachers in our life. And who I think of, one teacher in high school who made a difference, because I could feel her kindness and her sincerity. And she didn't like the bureaucracy. She didn't like what was going on. But like John Gatto, when we went to her class, it was like entering a different universe. And her class was called Biological Psychology. And for the first time, I was a junior. I must have been 17 years old. I was learning about my mind. I was learning about my brain and the brain-body connection. We would do meditations like laying on the ground. We would bring our sleeping bag and our pillow. And we got to like rest for 20 or 30 minutes of class, and it was just a respite from the chaos of other classes. And I don't know why I remember this, but she helped me understand the basics of the left brain and the right brain. And there was a guy named Phineas Gage, and I think was a railroad worker. He had a piece of metal shoot through, and it
yes,
severed.
I've heard about this dude.
Yeah, it severed the corpus callosum, and it was, I can't remember all the details, but basically his left and right brain were disconnected, and they did some studies with him, and it was very fascinating. And I was just like, dude, our brains are awesome. And it kind of opened up a door, planted a seed. And later I started to get into personal development and just developing my mind and these types of things. And I would say Rita Falls made a big difference. So I hope you're well, Rita. I don't know where you are. I guess I'll look you up after this. But I agree, John, to acknowledge the good teachers, maybe write them a letter, send them an email, give them a phone call or something. I literally am going to look her up after this, because I am grateful for her. And that's, I think, how we can play a small part in our students' lives. And I'll tell teenagers and parents, when I graduate them, I'll say, I'm just playing a small role, but it's mom and dad who play the major role. And because mom and dad, you love your children, you're going to be around in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. You have a vested interest emotionally and health-wise, everything in your child's success and whatever they chart their goals and dreams to be. So I do tell parents, don't think of yourselves as the teacher, but as a guide, a coach, a steward, and you're on the learning path together, because true education is lifelong and you never really get there. And that's the whole point. You just keep going. It's like if you ask a tree, how tall do you want to be, little tree? The tree says, as tall as I can. So that would be my memorial for Rita Falls, and just to appreciate you acknowledging the teachers, because there are good teachers out there, and it's good to show some appreciation and love for them.
Excellent. So there we go, our April 20 and 26 edition of This Month in Ed. And all the links will be down below, especially David's link tree. I do not dare to figure out which of these links are here. You were on Here for the Truth?
Yep.
Okay, very cool. I was on that years ago. Nice guys, those fellows.
Yeah, they are.
But in any case, I will put the link tree, because there's a few David Rodriguez's running out there. You find out here.
You got to put the middle name. That will do it for you.
There we go. There we go. Yeah. All right. And then again, the previous shows here on this series are down below, so check those out. And then we're going to knock off with a light reminiscence of a actually rather young teacher. I think he says he's 22, trying to teach his juniors in high school the Oregon Trail from the 1980s. So while we get that queued up to the audience, thank you for your interest in our work, David's work and mine. Thank you especially for our patronage. Please check out David's different high school courses and whatnot and help him out materially. And David, thank you so much for your time this month of April.
Absolutely, John. Thank you, man. I hope the audience supports you as well. You're a visionary on the earth, as we all are in this type of conversation. It's beautiful, man. So thanks for your leadership and production. Look forward to seeing you in May.
Yesterday, I made my high school juniors play the 1985 version of the Oregon Trail, and here are the funniest things they said while expanding west. One of the students walked in and saw the handouts on the desk and went, "Work on a Tuesday?" And I said, "Brother, that's the most due work day of the week." While playing, one student said, "Hey, Mr. Jan, what's a wagon wheel?" I didn't even have to answer. His buddy went, "Bro, the wheel of a wagon." And the first student said, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." All day, every kid decided to name at least one of their wagon inhabitants Mr. Jan. So all day I just heard, "Mr. Jan has typhoid. Mr. Jan has cholera. Mr. Jan has died. Mr. Jan has died. Mr. Jan has typhoid again. Mr. Jan, how'd you break your leg in a wagon?" Fair question. Another student asked, "Wait, Mr. Jan, where does the Oregon Trail end?" Sound it out. One student was doing their best impression of a puddle, staring at the "you died" screen. And I said, "You good?" And they said, "Oh, just rethinking life right now." And I hope they were talking about the game. Two students were bickering, and one said, "You can ask Mr. Jan, he was there." And I said, "Where?" And the other student said, "In 1848. Still 22. So walking around monitoring, making sure we were all playing the game. Everybody was. And I saw this. So yeah. Lastly, I heard a kid say, "No, Epstein died." And before I could say anything else, the kid next to him said, "Why was I in a wagon with Epstein and Diddy?" So they weren't allowed to play anymore.